Okay, so welcome Buffalo Grove Junior parents and students to our January Beyond Buffalo Grove High School. If everybody could just put themselves on mute, that'd be appreciated. Just a couple introductions before we begin. I'm Paul Genovese. I'm the post-secondary counselor here at Buffalo Grove High School. My role is to help your kids navigate the life after high school process. And that is kind of what we're kicking off tonight, is the kind of a start point, if you will, regardless of where you're at in the process. So some of you probably maybe have started this process already and have had some conversations. Maybe some families have had a brief conversation or two and know that you have to start talking about it. And maybe some families haven't started talking about it at all. Whichever situation, wherever you're at, that is okay. Tonight, we're going to explain, and our mission is to give out a lot of information, not to just spew information out at you, but to give you some logic, give you some reason, give you some strategies, if you will, on how to navigate this process. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Brian Linhart. He's one of our counselors here at BG. He's going to help me out with technology and managing the chat room and keeping me on time. We also have Dada Ibrahimovic, who is our IACAC Corps representative. And IACAC is the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. And it's a state agency that's sort of like a liaison between public high schools and colleges in the state of Illinois. And Dada is our financial aid expert. So you certainly don't need to figure out financial aid now, but we want you to be an informed consumer. So at the end of my presentation, Dada's going to hop on and she's going to give you a little snippet of what Fafsa is, what financial aid is, how families get awarded money, give some timelines, and when you begin the financial aid process. So with myself talking about life after high school combined with how to pay for any type of schooling beyond high school you want to go to, hopefully you'll leave this meeting with some good information. I just already answered a couple chats from students, and yeah, it's nice that the students are here. We have a new, besides being on Zoom this year and doing all this virtually, we kind of build this as a student-parent event. So hopefully you guys can't have the opportunity to be together at the kitchen table or on the couch or just kind of listening together, hearing the same information. If your students are not there, that is okay. Students, if your parents couldn't make it, that is okay. It's just what we're trying to encourage is some communication and some talking and starting earlier rather than later. So what we mentioned already is kind of like this timeline. And, some kids are really on the ball and have thought of this, and some are just starting. Wherever you're at, we're in the month of January. So in reality, you have all of January, the rest of January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and say once things settle down with school, mid-September. You have 8 to 9 months. So time right now, guys, is on your side. You have the luxury of time. So you should not be feeling, families and parents and students or guardians, you should not be feeling stressed about this. We are in the exploration mode. And today we're going to kind of give you some resources. We're going to highlight and showcase some resources, some things that can help you and your family navigate the process. And on a side note, at any time, whenever you have questions, you are more than welcome to call me. We can do this, we can do a Zoom, we can do email conversation, we can talk over the good old fashioned phone, however you want to do it. But you have a lot of time. So the clock, the clock has started to tick. And so as of say today, every day that you're choosing not to do or not to think about stuff, it's just one less day. The kids that are extremely successful with the life after high school process, no matter what pathway they choose, whether it be military, Harper Community College, a four-year public school, whatever their choices are, the kids who are successful is that they've done a lot of planning. They've done a lot of talking with their parents. They've done a lot of research, and they're going to walk into senior year in August, September with a plan. And then simply senior year is just executing that plan. That's the easy part. Applying to colleges, enlisting in the military, applying to Harper, applying to a trade school, whichever pathway you choose. So now's the time to do your exploring, to do your research, to gather information at a really low stress. Another tip I'd like to mention is that kind of like the funnel approach. Right now, you're all at the top of the funnel. So my point is, don't exclude any ideas. Don't exclude any types of schools. Don't exclude any types of majors. Don't exclude any type of how to go about getting to your end goal. Leave everything on the table. I know parents, sometimes when a student, your student comes to you and says, I would like to go, I'm considering this school, and immediately probably go to the website and look to see how much that school costs. And you're like, oh my God. So I understand cost is a factor, but please don't exclude if that school seems to be like a really great fit and has every single thing that you want, and parent, guardian, you could agree with that. Don't exclude that school as of yet. It's not saying that's going to be a magic, and you're going to be able to do that, but you have plenty of time in the process. So keep an open mind, keep an open mind as to all the different options and pathways that you're choosing. Finally, the pathways. I hope my goal tonight too is to show you a wide variety of options that your kids have. Even within the four-year realm, when you say, oh, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go to a four-year school. There are schools that are public schools, there are private schools, religiously affiliated schools that are super large, super small, close to home, far away. So there's a lot of, even within that idea of going to a four-year school, there's still a lot of choices and a lot of things to consider going into senior year. So we're going to kind of put some definition to some of that stuff too. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to share my screen, and we put together what we did this semester. We put together a website, and we tried to put together a website that was easy to navigate, that was easy to understand, a website that didn't just have a ton of text and just a whole bunch of links. So that was a challenge in itself. But what we're going to do, we're going to share. Okay. So we have 5 main goals for tonight. The first goal is we want students to be prepared. So like we said earlier, we want you to be prepared for senior year, walking into senior year with a plan. We want families to be informed consumers. I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power. The more information you have about a product, a service, an item, the better off you are. So if you are in the know on how the application process works and what schools require, what items schools require, you're going to be much better than the student who is not in the know or not very informed. And our ultimate goal is to have everybody being an informed consumer. We want everybody to make good decisions. So that's for the family, but students being realistic and making good decisions and talking with your parents, talking with your guardian, and come up with a decision together. And then finally, the ultimate goal, the goal above all goals, is finding the right fit. As we said, within four-year schools, there's a wide variety of choice. You have several branches of the military to choose. There's a lot of choices. And so we want students to find that right fit. History has it, if you go to a school that you love and you find that it is the right fit, it's the right size of campus, it's the right distance from home, it's the right environment. Maybe that's in an urban area or a rural setting, whichever fits you. And you absolutely love that. You have that gut feeling in your heart. You were like, you go to this school when you do a visit and you fall in love with it. Chances are high, very high, that you're going to be very, very successful at that school. So that's our mission, and that's what we want, to help families and help students find the right fit. So with that being said, we created this website. Here's my contact information. Kathleen Becker is our college career room assistant. Please feel free to email either one of us or give either one of us a call. Just like our Buffalo Grove website, we have some quick links. I would like to show you that we have a quick links to Naviance, Schoology, Infinite Campus, and so on. You can read this, but I like to showcase the calendar of events. So as juniors, this is your calendar of events. Obviously, tonight is what we're meeting right now. I just like to highlight the remainder of junior year for families. So this is January. We're kicking off this process. In the month of February, juniors are going to go through junior core, and they're going to meet with their counselor, and they're going to meet individually and in a small group. And counselors are going to help develop their students' plan. We're going to get them on Naviance, but it's a great opportunity for the counselor, the students' generalist counselor, to talk one-on-one about that plan. And if I need to get involved as far as if we want to have another meeting, we can do that. But this is an opportunity. So we're talking in January, we're going to continue talking about life after high school during the month of February. Another event is campus visit days. And I obviously understand that with COVID, the ability to get out and physically visit campuses is hindered quite a bit. Hopefully things get better, and hopefully by summer, you'll be able to get out and visit some campuses. But right now, colleges are doing the best they can, just like what we're doing right now. Colleges have virtual campus tours. These are a couple links to some interactive virtual tours as well. Just put down just February 12th through the 15th. That's a break for you guys. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's a good time to, if possible, to even drive to a campus, not get out and walk around, but just to visit the campus surrounding areas. March 4th, we're going to have a post-secondary options night. So we are going to have an event where we're going to have breakout sessions. So we're going to have a college panel session. We're going to have a financial aid session, student athlete, Harper College selective school program, where you can choose up to 2 sessions to attend. And the same thing, it's for students and parents to go together. Just another way to explore all the different kind of options that are available to you after you graduate. And that's March 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. via Zoom. The Illinois Association of College Admission Counselors are hosting virtual college fairs. We're replacing our District 214 college fair because obviously we can't have it in person, but our state association is offering a virtual college fair. These are the dates. So you have 4 opportunities from 5 to 7:45, and there will be more information to follow. And just on a side note, starting this week, my goal is to communicate with families. So I will send an email out to students and to parents at minimum twice a month. So in the subject line, I'll just say BGHS CCC, which stands for the College Career Center. I don't want to overwhelm you or inundate you with emails because I know our inbox can get quite full at times. But when you get an email from me, I'm just simply trying to give out some information, kind of give you some pointers, kind of give you some ideas on events to attend, and just to keep you in the know, to keep you an informed consumer. Spring break in normal times would be a great time to visit some campuses. In place of our District 214 College Fair, we're going to be hosting college rep visits. So last fall, we hosted around 250 colleges, and they would come in through a Zoom, and kids would have an opportunity to meet with 250 some odd colleges. We're going to beef that up for junior year, so the months of March and April, starting March 1st through the end of April. Our goal is to have around 250, 300 colleges that students can log into a Zoom and hear specific information about a school. All these events will be before school, before the 10 o'clock hour, so really from 9 to 10. And I will be giving you emails on all the colleges that are coming, but we'll show you the website in a minute and kind of show you where all the links are at. April 13th, as of right now, is a mandatory state SAT for all juniors. I'll talk a lot more about testing when we dive in a little bit more. And then finally in April, my goal is to have a junior summer send off. So my goal is to go back into the classroom to junior English classes and kind of give like a summer to-do list, so you can have a productive summer. Kind of, we'll talk about college essays, what you can do in the summer to best prepare so you're ready to go right when fall begins and you are a full-fledged senior. So that's kind of the outline or the curriculum for junior year. As you can see, we walk students through the entire process. I'd like to click on resources. We have a wide variety of resources on this page too, so feel free to check out at your leisure. I want to kind of get into some other things, but for example, if you're a student athlete and you have a passion or an interest in playing at the collegiate level, this would be a resource link that you want to check out. If you're a first generation college bound student, there's some information you may want to check out, and everything else that applies. I just wanted to show this to you. There's specific junior resources, there's a junior checklist, information on financial aid, and so on. So, excuse me. So these are your choices, guys. And what we're going to do is walk through. So we're going to start off, what is your plan? What are your choices after you graduate high school? We're going to talk about understanding your plan. So like once you've made a decision on a type of school or thing that you want to do, let's understand a little bit deeper and what it means to you and how we go about planning for that. Then senior year, we're going to start talking about working your plan, the nitty-gritty details, the nuts and bolts of the application process. And then lastly, paying for your plan. And that's why we have Dada Ibrahimovic here, and she will explain to you a little bit about the federal financial aid process. So let's begin. What your plan is, as your choices, four-year school, Harper College, trade tech, certificate, and military. So what we just tried to do is line out Naviance. Before I forgot, and I wanted to go on to the quick links. Naviance it's not the end all be all, but is an outstanding tool. So students, I know you know Naviance. There's some really great updates there that are occurring. I'd encourage families to get on the Naviance together. There is not one tool like the National Center for Educational Statistics, the College Navigator, Big Futures College Search, or Naviance that's going to tell you, exactly what you should do. But these are good tools with a lot of great information. And the goal is to be an informed consumer. What I put here is just some general definitions so people know. I think when you go into the process, it's good to know when colleges mentions a term as far as open enrollment or region or flagship. If you know what those are, it's going to be less intimidating and less scary. So these are some types and traits of schools that offer a bachelor's degree. And please note, all these schools, you can complete these schools in 4 to 5 years. It's not impossible. Having a good plan and knowing what you want to do is very achievable to achieve that goal. What I want to mention here is one school is not better than another. And I know I mentioned this already, but I'm passionate about this. It's finding the right fit. So when we say the word, the term right fit means, is it a right fit academically? Is it a right fit socially? And is it a right fit financially? And that's the conversations you can have at home and have some discussions. You know, for example, what kind of learner are you? You know, student, are you a type of student where testing, you're not afraid of testing, you know, where you can go in and maybe since third grade, you have been a naturally great test taker. So maybe going to a larger school where you're going to have a lecture hall with a midterm and a final, and that's your grade. Maybe that doesn't scare you. That doesn't intimidate you. Maybe you're a student who does not like testing, but you do really good in school, but you do extra credit. You talk with the teacher. You enjoy small groups. So if you have group projects, you like a smaller environment. Maybe a smaller school is better for you. So finding the right fit is a key thing, as well as socially. You know, are you bigger the better, or you're more of a little bit more intimate atmosphere? And then finally, financially, what is affordable for your family? You can read this at your leisure, but this just kind of defines what a public school, private school, the difference between a college or a university. You know, there are schools that are technical based. There's, you know, MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Illinois Institute of Technology. And then there's art schools where the focus is on art. Technical schools, the focus is on engineering, STEM, applied sciences and natural sciences. Down here is kind of a quick link where you can check out, these are all of our 12 public universities within Illinois. It gives where they're located, graduation rate, the cost for in-state, and you can do a quick link and get to these schools here. It has a U.S. News and World Report overview if you'd like to see that at your fingertips. We have some popular private schools in Illinois. These are a lot of schools where our graduates end up going to, and they're a variety pack, religiously affiliated, not bigger, smaller schools, very selective schools, a little bit more liberal. But you can look at these. These are just a small sample of all the schools that are available to your son or daughter. I don't want to go into it, but similar, we have a sampling of popular out-of-state public schools and a sampling of out-of-state private schools. And then finally, there's a small, maybe we get maybe 6 to a dozen kids a year that are considering going to school internationally. And I have some 2 great websites here that can help students and families walk through the international university admission process. So that's the 4-year. Harper College is a great option for students. A lot of our kids start off at Harper. They either earn an associate's degree and enter the workforce, or they earn an associate's degree and they continue on and transfer towards their bachelor's degree at a 4-year university. What I put down here is a step-by-step process to applying to Harper. And starting off at Harper, getting started, you can go for degree seeking or certificate seeking. So these are 2 popular routes. Majority of kids probably start off with degree seeking, but not knowing all the benefits of what a certificate is. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So this link here just kind of walks you through the step-by-step process of what to do. It'll explain everything you need to do. And so if Harper is on your radar, you can check that out. If you do have any questions, Harper has a one-stop. You can click here and it's a virtual question board, or you can simply call. This is Jalen Little. He's our admission rep. So there's a very strong chance that when you apply, you will be talking with him. And he is very approachable. And this actually is his phone number. So when you call, you can talk to Jalen Little, who will help you navigate the process. And then we have trade school technical certificate programs. You know, and just a side note, I failed to mention, I'm sorry, at the beginning, if you guys have any questions and you're familiar with Zoom, you can certainly put your question in the chat. Brian Linhart, who's helping out, he will be manning the chat, and he will try to get your he'll try to answer your questions as I'm doing this. And if we have any questions that we don't get to, we're gonna compile those and we'll get you all the answers later on this week. So don't worry, we'll definitely try to get your your questions answered. So certificate programs. So we talked about a little bit about four-year colleges. We talked about Harper, which is our two-year community college. And now we're going to talk about trade schools, tech schools that offer a certificate program. The difference between a certificate program and a bachelor's degree, certificate is you get a certificate on a specific skill set. So any of the building trades you go to, any of the unions, you want to become an electrician, you go to school to learn that trade, learn about electricity and electrician. You don't learn English, math, science, social science. So a bachelor's degree is a broad-based learning. A certificate program is very pinpoint specific. So we have a couple I thought were pretty good articles with the difference between trade school versus college, if that interests you, if trade school is right for you. Even the local unions, these are all linked to all the different unions in the state of Illinois. So if you're interested in becoming an iron worker or heating and installation, this is a resource for you. Also, I mentioned Harper before. I'm not sure if all of you are aware, but Harper offers a ton of certificate programs. All these programs here are 2 years or less. And the one benefit with Harper and going into any of these certificate programs at Harper here is that since they're in our community, they have strong job employment. They have strong connections with the industry that they represent or that they teach. So they can help you with employment. So as you can see, this is a new one, drone technology and applications. There's a long list of programs that are 2 years or less. And I think sometimes students and families aren't aware of all of these opportunities that are available to kids. So I just wanted to highlight some of the certificate programs that Harper offers. I know that Harper is our community college, but College of Lake County and Oakton Community College also have a wide array of certificate programs. And if you'd like to check those out, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And these are additional links for students who are interested in doing something in the trades and or certificate programs. So we've talked about four-year university and the choices that you have. We've talked about Harper Community College. We've talked about trade certificate programs, and then finally military. And if you're interested in the military, all I did was, what I did was break this down. This here is a great website that explains all the military forces. You click on one and it'll direct you to gain some great information. But what I did, I lumped them, and if you're interested in the United States Air Force, there is information on enlisting in the United States Air Force. There's information on what Air Force reserves are, and there's information on the Air National Guard. And it defines what each one is to see if you're interested in the military, which of these three is the best option for you if you choose to pursue the Air Force. The same applies to the Army Reserves, Army National Guard, and so on. Next section is ROTC. There's the Air Force, Army, and Naval ROTC. And what ROTC stands for is the Reserve Officer Training Corps. So what that is, this program combines a four-year degree. So a student would go off to a four-year college and work towards a bachelor's degree. And if they choose to get into the Army ROTC program, they will graduate 4 or 5 years with their bachelor's degree, but they will also graduate as an officer in the Army. So there's a little bit of a time commitment after they graduate. There are some perks that the military will pay for students' college education. They provide training, and there's a little bit of a time commitment, but you leave college as an officer in the respective branch of the military. And then finally, I put down service academies here. Service academies are 4-year degrees, but this is a great website that explains what military schools are. Right here, there is, for the Army, there's U.S. Military Academy, Navy, Naval Academy, Air Force, and so on. This is a link, and it will take you to the site, and it will explain what West Point is, and it goes directly to the website. So that is for you to look at if that fits you. Sorry. So that's kind of the overview, and kind of the mission is to just show you all the choices that you have. Next, we're going to go into understanding your plan. We're not going to take a pop quiz right now, so don't worry about it. But promise me, after we get done today, click on here and take this quiz. I know we have a very smart group of people here, and I have full faith that you're all going to get 100%. But it's kind of an interesting, just a conversation starter with students, with your parents, or with your guardian. And I know you're all going to get good straight A's on this. Some helpful tips for juniors. The world of college admissions, it's not black and white. There's a rough outline of rules and regulations that you have to follow. But overall, it's a very gray area. So with that being said, while there are no minimums on the number of schools, so students, my point is, as a junior, you're going to start looking for schools. And if you're the first in your family maybe to go to school, you're saying, how many schools should I look for? A nice number to consider would be 5 to 8 schools to consider. There are students who apply to 1 or 2 schools. There are students every year that apply 15, 20, 25 schools. I wouldn't encourage either one. I wouldn't encourage just 1 or 2. I wouldn't encourage, over 10. But my point is, if you've done your homework and you've done your research and you've looked around, 5 to 8 schools will give you some great choices and options. So if you're sitting there saying, I'm trying to develop my plan, a good plan would be to strive for 5 to 8 schools. And again, you can choose just 1, 2, you can apply to more. It is completely up to you. I know we talked about this already, but please don't exclude a school just because of costs at this point. And that's what Dada will be talking about. We're going to talk a little bit about scholarships, especially at private schools. I don't want to say it's an automatic, but it is likely, more often than not, students do get some nice scholarship money to a private school that possibly can reduce that cost of tuition and room and board to what it would cost to go to an Illinois state school. Not all the time, not a guarantee, but it does happen more than maybe what you think. Standardized testing, and at the bottom of this page, we'll talk a lot more about testing, but if a college does require standardized exam, which is either the ACT or the SAT, starting next month, February, March, April, May, and June is the time to take these tests, time to take these college entrance exams. The chances of you doing the best work is during these months. The tests are normed for second semester juniors. So, we'll talk about that in a second. Work hard on getting this semester of school, guys, juniors. The grades that you receive in June are the grades that are going to be on, that's the GPA, that's the GPA that's going to be on your transcript when you were applying to schools. So if you want to kick it into gear, now is a really good time to kick it into gear and end junior year on a really good note. Finally, senior course selection counts. So juniors, when you are applying during your senior year, you're going to fill out an application. You're going to send possibly your test scores. But you're also going to send your transcript. And while there's no grades on your senior year classes, because if you apply in September, there's no grade, but we list courses in progress. So colleges will be able to see your course selection for senior year. And if you've taken a rigorous curriculum from freshman, sophomore, junior year, they're going to expect that same level of rigor during your senior year. So I know we did course selection a month or two ago, but just know that they will see what you chose. The junior checklist, we can go over the fall stuff, but we're right here at the beginning of the winter season. And we just talked about registering for the ACT and SAT. And this is just a checklist, and you guys can read this at your leisure, checklist of things to do and when to do them, whether it be winter, spring, and summer. I wanted to fast forward to senior year just a little bit, finding the right fit. That's the name of the game. This is kind of just a preview of what senior year is like. So during the months of September through November, our focus is filling out college applications, employment applications, enlisting in the military or trade schools. December through April is you focus on scholarships and school aid. October 1st is the Fafsa, that stands for the free application for federal student aid, and that's roughly October through February. If you apply in September, October, November, you probably will hear of your admission decision between November and April. If you got in, if you didn't get in, if you're waitlisted, whatever. And award letters usually start around this time all the way through the end. Just know, juniors, as a senior, you have up until May 1st to make a decision on where you want to go. So you can apply back here in September to 5 schools, get accepted to all 5. You have all the way until May 1st to make your decision. So time is on your side. The college search. There's a video there's some college representatives that put together a video, kind of like the other side of the desk. So instead of the high school side, there's college. This is a really good video. There's college reps that talk about how to choose this college, what to look for, some inside information. We also have a list on factors to consider. So when you sit down, you're saying, okay, what am I looking for? What should I be looking for in a college? This is just a short list of things to consider: academics, college characteristics, type of social life, admission requirements, and student population. This is certainly by no means an all-encompassing list, but just a start point on the conversations that you have with your folks or with your guardians as far as what to look for or what's important for you when looking for a school. And I can't stress enough, developing a SMART plan. We said earlier, never say never if it's a really expensive school or if it's a really very selective school. Just have a SMART plan. And that means by having a variety of schools on your list, knowing your abilities, your values, and your interests, we should have 3 categories of schools when you're applying. So that list of 5 to 8 schools, within that 5 to 8 schools, we should have some probable schools, some realistic schools, and some dream schools. Probable school academically is you probably will get in based on your academic profile. So you exceed the requirements. So it's just a just in case. Realistic schools, your profile matches the academic profile for an admitted student. So this would be a realistic school. It's be a good fit. So if your profile is similar to the admitted students, that means there's a whole bunch of kids that are around in your ballpark on that campus. And the likelihood of you fitting in there is very high. And then dream schools. You want to attend, but your academic profile might just be shy of what they're looking for. Again, never say never. I would never tell a student not to apply to school. So definitely do that. Definitely apply to U of I or Notre Dame or Harvard or Princeton or whatever is your dream school, but back that up with a good plan. College search, again, Naviance, I kind of put it in here sporadically because it's a great site. But these are virtual tours. So you can kind of check some of these things out, even though with COVID now, kind of highlighting that, you can find some schools and you can look at them virtually to see if that fits you. And like we said earlier too, campus, in my opinion, the absolute best way to learn about a school is doing a campus visit. And I really do hope that this summer things turn around and families will be able to get out and visit some schools, because there's no substitute for campus visit. If that does happen, these are some campus visit suggestions. Just some common sense things that will help you have a great campus visit. When you visit a campus, go with questions. Please, this is the time you're gathering information. This is the time where you're going to learn a lot, but you got to ask questions. So here are some conversation starters or some general questions. By no means this is an all-encompassing list, but these are some things you may want to ask them. You could even print this off and bring this with you when you visit a campus. And then also we have a college comparison sheet. Very elementary, very basic, but literally, you know, you go down to Bloomington Normal, Illinois, and you visit ISU, Illinois State University, and then in the afternoon you visit Illinois Wesleyan University. Large public school, small private. And students, like literally on the car ride home, pull this thing out and do a comparison. And then you keep some notes, and then you'll kind of start thinking, realizing what school fits you the best. Just tools to help you out. In College Fair, we'll talk more about the College Fair, the IACAC College Fair, and then our college reps. But that's understanding your plan. This too is an application tracker worksheet that you can use. And you can list the name of the school. When you log in, it just keeps you organized. And we'll highlight that again next year as a senior. Right here, folks, is where we're going to house our college rep virtual visits. So parents and students, I mentioned March through April are going to be, we're going to have a very robust college rep visit. You can look here on this document. This is fall, but we'll change that to the spring. But I will be emailing you regularly on what schools are going to be visiting District 214 on what dates. So I'll definitely keep you updated on that. I want to be conscious of time here. Deadlines and admissions. So this is oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Types of decisions. These are some terms that you might want to become familiar with. When you start researching schools, I'm very positive you're going to see some of these terms in college admission information in the catalog, online, and this just puts some definition of what a deferred admission is, what a deferred decision, early action, rolling admission, open admissions. The more information you have, so if you have an understanding of what type of policy a college has, that will help you develop a good plan and understand how to manage that plan better than a student just says, oh, well, I don't know what the heck this is. I'm just going to apply to schools in alphabetical order, or private schools first, public schools last. This will help you have a good plan. Just real quick, early decision, parents and students sometimes often ask about this. This is the binding agreement. So this is an admission decision where if you apply by using the early decision plan, you apply early. That usually is by November 1st or November 15th. And what a college will do then is by December, they will let you know if you've been admitted. If you have been admitted, and they say you get that congratulatory letter, like by December 15th that you've been admitted, that's the binding part. By applying through the early decision, you are agreeing that you will withdraw all the other offers of all the other colleges you apply to, and you have to accept that offer. So there's pros and cons. And if you guys have questions about that, give me a call or we can have a conversation about that privately. But that's what early decision is. Something, it's not to be taken lightly. So if there's a box on an application where it says early decision, it's a big deal. So we should have a little talk about that if that comes to be. Testing admission decisions. This is just a guide. So just to give categories of schools, we talked about open, liberal, traditional, selective, very selective. And this puts this category of school in relation to ACT and SAT score ranges. So if you're looking at a very selective school, ballparks, these colleges are looking for students to score between a 29 to 36 ACT or between a 1330 to a 1600 SAT. I put an asterisk here for traditional and liberal. Most of our Illinois public schools fall within these two categories. U of I probably being the one that's a little bit more selective, but nonetheless, 11 of 12 schools fall within these two categories. That's another point. I'm a firm believer that there are no bad schools. It's finding the right fit. So please don't feel, if you're looking at a school that's a liberal type school that has this category of ACT or SAT, that means it's a bad school. That's the beauty part of our American higher ed system. We have a lot of choice and there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of different kids. So what I'd like to talk about now is standardized testing. So what occurred last semester, the current seniors, I don't know if you have any brothers or sisters who are seniors, but in relation college admissions in relation to standardized testing, when COVID hit back in March, most ACT and SAT scores were canceled. And so that caused a lot of stress for kids initially. Colleges reacted and many colleges all across the country, from very selective to open enrollment, chose to go a path called test optional. So where they're saying we understand COVID and its implications and that prevented you from taking a standardized test. So they decided to make standardized testing optional, which means they said, they promised, and they did, they held firm on their word, that they would look at kids without a test score. So that occurred with the senior class. And how it applies to you as juniors is that many of these colleges that had that policy, many of them adopted it for a 2-year cycle. So this would be your application time in the fall would be the second year of that cycle. So that would still apply to a lot for you applying next year. Not all schools did it, but rest assured, as of right now, you are all planning on taking that. We have the April in-school SAT. So by default, you will all have, for insurance, you will all have a standardized test, and you can all choose to take another test just to see if you do any better. Point is, the right fit and what colleges look at. Looking at a transcript, which is your academic profile, standardized testing, and non-academic, such as your essay, letters of recommendation, clubs, activities, involvement. If this is omitted and there is no standardized testing, how do colleges make a decision? They look at this, and they look at this even heavier than they did in the past. So they're looking, and that's why I said senior year counts, and having that great GPA at the end of junior year going into senior year is even more important than ever. They also are looking at non-academics. So they are going to take a closer look at that essay or personal statement. So that's something that you want to something to consider. They are going to look a little bit more at letters of recommendation. They're going to take a little deeper dive into your activities and the quality of your activities versus quantity, like how in depth were you in football from freshman year through senior year, or a club or an outside of activity or part-time employment. But they're going to look a little bit more focus on this and focus on this if this is omitted. So I wish I had better information. We're in a flux few years with standardized testing, but nonetheless, you will have an opportunity to take the standardized, to take an SAT, and probably be able to take another one on a national test date. And this is a slide that just kind of talks about some general testing. I do want to mention, this is truly hot off the press. Just this morning, the SAT College Board, it owns SAT exam, and the College Board came out with information that they are no longer going to be hosting the essay portion of the SAT. So this June of 2021 will be the last SAT test with the optional with the optional writing portion to it. I would imagine ACT is going to follow suit, but point is there's not a lot of validity in it, and colleges aren't looking at it as much as they did when it first came out. But nonetheless, the writing portion of the SAT is going to be gone as of June of this year. So I know I'm doing a lot of talking and going is hopefully not too fast, so I apologize for that. So we've talked about what is your plan, the options and the choices that you have. We talked about understanding your plan, the little details with standardized, which we just did, standardized testing and so on. This we're going to table for next year as a senior. This is the nitty gritty. This is a senior year checklist, how to get to where you want to be, the process of applying, and that's our focus next year. So we're going to have another student parent night in late August, early September. And we're going to be meeting with seniors, you guys as seniors next year in school. And our focus is going to be on the nuts and bolts of how to apply, how to send test scores, how to compose essays, if the fee waiver applies, how to send transcripts, if you have an interview, tips and tricks on interviewing, and how to go about asking teachers or counselors for letters of recommendation. So this is all, you can look at this, of course, on your own, but we're going to be addressing all that during senior year. And then finally, paying for your plan. The two main sources of funding is scholarships and federal financial aid. So right now, our seniors are knee-deep in the scholarship application process, and we will list all scholarships here on this link. And in a moment, we're going to turn it over to Dada, who's going to give you a little bit more information on financial aid. But before that, I just wanted to highlight or show you return on investment. These two links are, this one is, this talks about graduation rates, and this one talks about return on investment. And I just want to highlight that these above links are not intended to compare the quality of institution, but to highlight graduation rates and return on investment. So my point is, when you're looking for schools, and if a school publishes a graduation rate of 95%, they're saying that we graduate 95% of our students in a certain time frame. So statistically, that's pretty good. On the flip side, there are some schools where they graduate maybe 50, 55, 60% of their students. That doesn't mean it's a bad school. It doesn't mean it's a poor school or a school that's not worthy, because there are kids that go to those schools that do graduate. But if you're trying to gather as much information as you can, you may want to consider and just kind of take into consideration graduation rates and return on investment on the type of school that you go to. I'm going to click onto federal financial aid. There's a lot of information here. A lot of this information you do not need to worry about until senior year, so we're not going to go into great detail about it. One thing I'd like to mention before we turn over to Dada is that new this year, the state of Illinois has added a new graduation requirement, and that graduation requirement is to complete the Fafsa. So in order to graduate from Buffalo Grove High School next year, families need to fill out the Fafsa application, which is a free application for federal student aid. And you have to do that, or there's a waiver or an opt-out. But nonetheless, we'll talk about that later. There is no action needed as of right now, but just know that that is a requirement. Before I turn it over, I have recorded this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this recording on our website. And if there's any questions in the chat that weren't answered, I'm going to answer those questions. And later this week, I'm going to send you an email with the link to the recording and the answers to those questions. And then after Dada's done with her presentation, I just want to say thanks for attending. I appreciate it. I know it's a little bit longer than normal, but I wanted to make sure you got some information on financial aid. And hopefully this encourages your family to start the process early. We're all here at Buffalo Grove to give you assistance and to help you out. So please feel free to reach out. And with that, I'm going to pull up this presentation. And then Dada, you can take it away from here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Genovese. Hi, everyone. My name is Dada Ibrahimovic, and I am with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. And today I'll be talking to you about the financial aid process. This will be a brief introduction, just because, as Mr. Genovese said earlier, you won't be needing too much of this right now, but you will be seeing and hearing a lot from me next year. So just look out for that. So, and Mr. Genovese, will you be like scrolling down as I go?
Oh, sure.
Sorry about that. All right. So before we begin, let me tell you just a little bit about IACAC. IACAC is the financial aid agency for the state of Illinois. We administer the scholarships, grants, loans, and prepaid tuition programs. Our mission statement is providing Illinois students with information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. So let us begin. What is financial aid? Financial aid is money that is borrowed, given, or earned that could be obtained from various sources to help pay for college. So it's intended to make up that difference between what college actually costs and how much your family can afford. So there are two basic types of financial aid. There is gift aid and self-help aid. Gift aid is usually awarded in the form of grants and scholarships. It's what we like to call free money that typically does not need to be paid back. So two forms that we see most commonly are grants, which are awarded based on financial need, and then scholarships, which may be awarded on merit such as academic achievement, athletic ability, artistic talent, or any other attributes that you may have. Or it might just be one that you enter an essay, and if they choose you, you'll get that scholarship. Self-help aid, on the other hand, requires you to take on a bit more responsibility. That includes work opportunities such as work study and then loans. Work study, all funds awarded must be earned by the student, and they are responsible for securing that job on campus if they get awarded work study. And then student loans are something, obviously, that needs to be repaid. So federal work study, I get tons of questions on this every single year. What is it? It is a need-based financial aid program that allows eligible students to work part-time on or off campus. So to be considered for federal work study, you must indicate your interest on the Fafsa. So we encourage all students to select yes on the federal work study question on the Fafsa so that the student is at least considered for it, even if they do not end up getting it. So note that the funds for this program are limited. So it is important to complete the FAFSA on time. And this is money that the student must earn through working. So AKA, if you get awarded work study in your award letter and you're interested in it, then once you start your career, your college career, you must apply for the job in the college's deadline and then ace the interview and get the job. There are tons of awesome jobs on campus. They work towards your school schedule. They're very flexible and they don't make you work too many hours. In fact, there's a cap on how many hours you can work. And then the money that you get from federal work study gets paid to you. So financial aid can come in a variety of sources. So we have the federal government, which is administered from the U.S. Department of Education. We have the state government, which is administered by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, or ISAC. Colleges and universities also, they can offer financial aid assistance to their students, such as scholarships or additional grants if they see that fit. And then private sources as well. So many agencies, corporations, civic and religious groups may award scholarships to students as well. But something that's different about private and outside sources is you have to look for them. So scholarships are all about knowing the right places to look. All right, so let's talk about the two big grants. So we have the Illinois MAP grant, and we also have the Pell Grant. So the free application for federal student aid, or the Fafsa, is required to determine a student's eligibility for aid. So by completing the Fafsa, students are considered and may qualify for these need-based grants. These are the largest grants that a student may be eligible to receive. So if you feel like you might be eligible for them, you know, it is always advantageous to fill out the Fafsa. Even if you don't think you'll get awarded this based on your financial need, still good to fill out the FAFSA. Colleges like to see it. Colleges like to see where you're standing, because even if you don't get any aid from the federal government or the state government, the college can award you aid as well. So let's talk a little bit about loans. So when evaluating loan options, these are some of the things to consider. The source of the loan. So what is the source of your loan? Is it a federal loan or is it a private loan? Who is your loan servicer? Subsidized versus unsubsidized. We'll talk a little bit more about the difference on the next slide. Interest rates. So knowing your interest rate is very important as well. Interest rates can be variable or fixed and can depend on the type of loan that you're taking out. And then repayment options and grace periods. So these typically only apply to federal loans, not private loans, but the federal government offers many different repayment programs and allows you to lower your monthly payments based on your income. Subsidized versus unsubsidized. So to understand the difference between these two loans is when will the interest start to accrue or accumulate. So we have direct subsidized loans. These are given based on financial need, much like the grants that I was speaking about earlier. The federal government pays for the interest while you're enrolled in school and during grace periods and periods of deferment. We also have direct unsubsidized loans. So these are not based on financial need. So you're responsible for paying the interest at all times, and interest will begin to accrue as soon as you take out the loan. So to remember this difference, a girl in training taught me unsubsidized loans, the interest is on you. All right, so you can complete the FAFSA online at www.fafsa.gov. Information reported on the FAFSA will be used to calculate something called an expected family contribution. So I will be talking about that in later slides to determine your financial aid eligibility. So remember, the first word in the FAFSA is free. So please make sure not to be paying anybody to fill this out for you. I am a free resource. I am your local rep, so you can reach out to me as well. Or you can reach out to your counselor or Harper's financial aid office as well. There are so many free resources for you to fill this out and to get help filling this out. So just make sure that you're not paying for anybody to do this for you.
And I'd just like to interject too, that we have in the fall, District 214, Buffalo Grove High School, we're going to have a ton of FAFSA completion events. So in fact, Dada helps us out here at Buffalo Grove. I believe she has at least 20 blocks of time from October all the way through February to work one-on-one with families on completing the FAFSA. So if you ever get into a jam down the road next semester, please feel free to reach out. We can definitely get you help filling out the FAFSA.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the alternative application for Illinois financial aid. So there are some students who are not eligible to complete the FAFSA, and that is okay, because now we have a new form, the alternative application. It is for state financial aid only. So that Illinois MAP grant that I talked about earlier, you will be in the running for that if you fill out this application instead. So questions on the alternative app for the most part are the same as the ones on the FAFSA. And then information reported on the alternative app will be used to calculate that expected family contribution. And students must complete an alternative app every year they plan to be in college, much like the FAFSA. So this is also an application that is free. It is on IACAC's website. So if you or anybody you know has a student that is not eligible to complete the FAFSA, please, please, please let them know about this application, because that is $5,340 that they could be missing out on if they don't apply for it. All right, so I'm just gonna go over just some of the steps. So for the for you guys, it will be a couple, like the next year's FAFSA, so not this year. So don't worry about the date. But when you're going to be applying is gonna be October 1st in your fall semester of senior year. October 1st is when it's gonna be open for both the FAFSA and the alternative application. The FAFSA is for high school seniors, and then college students of any level. So just make sure that you're reapplying every year. And in addition to determining eligibility for federal state programs, it is also used by colleges and universities to award institutional aid. So that's something that's very, very important to remember. And even considering that it is a requirement this year for students to complete the FAFSA, that's just something to note as well. All right, so let's talk about the forms themselves. What info will you need? So most students must report parent information until the age of 24 or until they enter their master's, whichever comes first. For financial aid purposes, only biological, adoptive, or step parents, if married to a biological parent, should be reporting information on the FAFSA. So no one else should be reporting their information for a student unless they have legally adopted the student. So legal guardians are not considered parents for purposes of the FAFSA. Grandparents are not considered parents. And if parents are divorced, report information about the parent that the student lived with the most in the past 12 months. So that's important as well. If parents are divorced, make sure you're not putting both parents' information. You will only need one parent's information. All right, so what will you need to fill out these forms? So there's a FAFSA only at the top, and then FAFSA and alternative application at the bottom. So for the FAFSA only, make sure that you have your social security number. Parents who do not have a social security number, that's no problem. They will just be entering zeros on the FAFSA. Alien registration number if a student is not a US citizen, but still eligible for the FAFSA. So if you have any questions on that, you can email me later. And then other than that, you'll need your 2019 federal tax returns, W-2s, and other records of income. By the time you guys are applying, I keep saying the year, it's gonna be like another year's taxes, probably 2020, I believe. And then bank statements, records of investments, records of untaxed income, and then just a list of the colleges that the student would like to attend. Because on the FAFSA, you will be listing those colleges so that the FAFSA can get sent to them. All right, so let's talk about the electronic signatures for both of these forms. For the FAFSA, you will need to create an FSA ID to electronically sign a FAFSA and complete the submission process. So an FSA ID, what is it? It's basically like creating a profile for the FAFSA, but they use your identifiers to determine like who you are. So they'll take your social security number, your name, and your date of birth just to verify that it is the right person doing the form and it is the right parent signing the form. So note that students and parents must have separate FSA IDs. An email address can only be associated to one FSA ID. So it is important that your students and you, the parent or whoever's listening, have a separate email address that can be accessed for a few years since you will be using your FSA ID until you graduate. something to note on that, sometimes I see students using their D214 email. Make sure that you're not doing that, because as soon as you graduate, what's going to happen? Your email is going to be invalid. You're not going to be able to sign in anymore. And what happens if you need to recover your password? You won't be able to. So just please, please, please make sure that you're using personal and professional emails for this. So you'll need your FSA ID every year to reapply. And it consists of a username and a password. Make sure to keep it safe somewhere. I know sometimes students and parents get confused. They'll email me, hey, I didn't get an ID number. What's going on? Your FSA ID is just the username and password. Nothing's going to come back to you. You just need to make sure that you remember those two, because those two will be used to sign into the Fafsa and then to electronically sign at the end of the Fafsa before submitting. On the alternative app, it is a little bit different. So a PIN is needed to sign the alternative app electronically. Students and parents will have their own PIN. Again, it's going to have separate email addresses so that the PIN can get sent to the right emails. And then the PIN is needed every time you renew the alternative app. And to obtain a PIN, parents, you provide your email on the form. And by the time you get to the end of the form, the alternative app will actually send you the PIN number, and that's how you sign the alternative application. All right, so just to explain a little bit about what expected family contribution means. So to determine your financial need, the US Department of Education uses a formula that calculates the information that you provided on the FAFSA to determine the amount that you and your family are expected to contribute towards a 1 year of college. That's why it's called the expected family contribution. So it's based on family information. It could be your income, how many kids you have, how many students are in college, how old the parents are, how many in the household, assets. They use so many different calculations to determine this number. So like I said, it is the amount that the student or family can be expected to contribute in one academic year. And where will you find the EFC? You'll find it on the confirmation page post-submission, and also in the student aid report that gets sent once the FAFSA is processed. All right, so once you have completed the FAFSA, you may be selected for a process called verification. Don't worry, the word sounds a little scary, but it's not. It's a very, very common process that universities use to confirm that the data reported on the FAFSA or the alternative app is correct. So if selected, you will be asked to submit additional documentation. So just a reminder, this will be after you submit a FAFSA once it's received by the colleges. It's a pretty random process. They might select you for verification, so you'll be asked to submit additional documentation. Just make sure to provide only the information requested and be sure to submit it in a timely manner. Otherwise, your financial aid can be put on hold. So where will you be getting this, verification? Typically, it will be sent to the student's email. So make sure that the student is checking their email every little while. I would say every day, but some students are different. So make sure just to check frequently next semester when you submit the application, because it is very likely that you might be selected for verification. All right, so after you complete everything, the financial aid administrators at each college will then package you and send you something called an award letter. The financial aid offer may include a combination of grants, scholarships, work study if you're eligible, student loans, and if applicable, your anticipated out-of-pocket costs as well. So as you review the award offers, consider what types of financial aid you are receiving. For example, an award offer might look like you're getting a free ride because your anticipated out-of-pocket cost is $0, but they shoved in a bunch of loans in there. Remember, that's money that you have to pay back. So it's important to look at what types of financial aid they are giving. Ideally, you would like to look for a letter that includes more of that gift aid, the scholarships and grants rather than the self-help aid. So when you're making your decisions, just be on the lookout for that. So then just some FAFSA tips and reminders. Complete the FAFSA alternative app as soon as possible after October 1st in your senior year. Apply early. Information reported on these forms is confidential and used only to determine your financial aid eligibility, and that's it. It's not shared with anybody else besides the colleges. You may be asked to submit that documentation in the verification process. And supplemental applications or forms may be required as well. There's some colleges that require you to do Mr. Genovese, can you help me out? What is the other application for financial aid that like certain schools do? And it's
Yes,
FAFSA?
CSS profile.
The CSS profile, yeah. So they might have you do that instead. So just be on the lookout for that. Keep a copy of everything you submit, and then again, make sure to reapply every single year. So let's just review the process all in one. I think this is a very great slide. You can take a picture of it if you'd like. The first step, complete the FAFSA or alternative app. Second step, review application data, make sure everything is correct. Third step, complete verification process if selected by the college. Then you'll start receiving and reviewing your financial aid offers. Then you respond to all of the colleges and universities, whether you're going there or not. The colleges do want to see that response because let's say they have a spot open, they have a student that's looking for a spot. If you decide to not go there, then that student can fill your spot. And then complete all pending processes and renew the FAFSA and alternative app every year. All right, so I just want to share with you just a couple of trusted websites. So we have studentportal.isac.org. This is where students can make an account on our portal. We just have a bunch of different tools to help with financial aid, with managing college costs, with college search. So I think it's a really great, kind of like one-stop shop for like all things college, much like the website that Mr. Genovese was showing us. We have studentaid.gov. That is the federal government's website. So if you have anything, any questions like really specific considering the FAFSA, I would go to that website, fafsa.gov as well. And then isac.org/alternative app for the alternative application. And it also has a whole webpage describing what the alternative app is, who is eligible for it, and what you are eligible in getting if you apply for it. All right, so I hope everybody feels a little bit better prepared for the financial aid process this next semester after receiving all of this information. But if you do have further questions, we have launched a text messaging service so students can text us their questions and they'll receive a response from an expert at our offices. And also, if you sign up for this, you can receive reminders about deadlines and tips designed for students. So to get started, just pick the area code closest to you. That's probably either 847 or 630. Text the name, and that's all you have to do. And then you're signed up for it. All right, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You might not need much of my help this semester, but just copy down my information just in case you might have some general questions. You feel free to email me, call me, or text me, whichever mode that you like to use.
Okay. Thank you. You done, Dada?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your time. I know it was a lengthy event. I guess just some takeaways. Please know that we are working with your kids throughout and going literally month by month with your kids, talking about post-high school planning. We're going to have multiple events. It has to be virtually this year, but multiple events to help your family make a good decision, have a good understanding. Hopefully you see the value in this website and you absolutely have at it and research and use it. You have your generalist counselor to give you assistance, and of course me, if you ever have any questions along the way. So don't feel ever that you're kind of on your own figuring this stuff out. And then as Dada mentioned, in the world of financial aid and money and paying for college, we continue during senior year to help and walk families through the process, through the college application process and the federal financial aid process. So we're just a phone call away. I think Brian tried to answer many of the chats. I appreciate that and thank you. Thank you all for coming, and this will be posted on the website with all the unanswered questions later on this week. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Dada, hi, how are you? I'm Mike at Rolling Meadows. I'm the transition person and I work with Kara and all of that. Who is going to be the other person who's going to be working with you at Meadows, your colleague?
So
'Cause I used to work with Kathleen.
Yeah, so me and Jocelyn Ramon, she is my
Okay.
district partner. We kind of split up the 211 and 214 schools. It was kind of just random, but she is the direct contact for Rolling Meadows.
Sweet. Thank you ever so much. That was really helpful, especially with the alternative for people to understand that.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
All right. Thank you. Awesome. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Take care. Thanks, Dada. Thanks, Brian.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.